Episode 14 Planning. The time was already 6 a.m. Moby was used to sleeping for only a few hours every day due to his rigorous training regimes. But, even still, he had never felt so full of energy after a measly 3 hours of sleep. Demons have a much faster natural regeneration ability to that of humans, therefore, requiring much less sleep, Avelia said. Moby took a mental note of that. Avelia, you're already awake? Moby said as he quietly got out of bed, trying not to wake up his still sleeping roommates. Well, yes, of course I am. I am always awake, she said in a snarky manner. Moby remembered that he has yet to retrieve the bags that he gave to the sergeant that escorted him to school. He went over to the terminal in the corner of the room and scanned his student ID to retrieve his bags. Suddenly, the white plate beside the terminal started to glow. His bags suddenly teleported on the plate a mere moment later. Moby only had 2 small bags. Naturally, since he was poor, he did not have many belongings worth bringing. He only brought his parents' martial arts books and 2 sets of clothing. Moby never had the chance to admire how big and nice his dorm room is. It was at least 5 times bigger than his old apartment. There were 3 closets, 1 for each student, a single bathroom, a big flat-screen TV, a fridge, and a microwave. And, the beds were 3 bunk beds stacked on top of each other. Moby unpacked the bag with the clothing first and hung them up in his new closet. As he opened the closet, he noticed that half of it was filled with student uniforms. Moby assumed that due to all the training that they will have to go through, they give extra uniforms in case one gets ruined. He then unpacked the bag with all the books. He has read the books over and over again trying to understand their meaning, but it seemed like some of them were written in another language that he could not understand. As soon as Moby touched a certain red martial arts book, a system notification appeared. \U003C New Demon Skill Acknowledged \U003E. \U003C The host is too low level to learn the skill \U003E. \U003C Level Requirement, Level 100 \U003E. Ads by Pub Future. Moby's eyes were staring at the notification in astonishment. He can even feel that Avelia has a similar reaction in his mind. What the fuck? Level 100. He inwardly thought. Moby, what kind of people were your parents? How do they possess such strong demon skills? When we first met, I was really surprised that you knew 2 demon skills already even though you were a human. Avelia asked in shock. About that, I was wondering how my necklace got into the human world, to begin with, Avelia said as she was deep in thought. How the hell should I know, and what do you mean by the human world? Moby asked in confusion. There are 3 dimensions, the nether realm, the human realm, and the celestial realm. Each realm is separate and not intended to coexist with each other. Humans seem to have no knowledge of the other realms, so I would keep your identity as a demon a secret of great importance, Avelia explained. The sudden revelation of the existence of different realms shocked Moby, only a little though. From all the crazy shenanigans that had happened to him in the last 2 days, this much wasn't surprising. For now, put that book in your inventory and don't reveal its existence to anyone. Avelia calmly added. My what? Moby asked in confusion. Oh yeah, didn't I mention that you unlocked your inventory when you evolved? Whoops, Avelia said nervously. No, you didn't. If it's what I think it is, this will be completely broken. It is an infinite storage space, that's the simplest way I can put it. Within the inventory, time and space are frozen, so any item you store will be the same when you take it out. For example, if you store hot food, the food will remain hot and fresh when you take it out even if it stays in the inventory for years. Moby became really excited. Just thinking of all the ways an infinite storage space can accomplish is like a wet dream. He can steal pretty much anything with no evidence against him, he can stealthily carry around weapons and armor without being noticed, and he can bring extra school uniforms with him to change into after he finishes killing someone. Is it possible to hide a dead body inside the inventory? Moby asked, trying to hold back his excitement. You can store anything as long as it's not living. Plants are the only exception to this rule. So, the answer to your questions is, yes. Moby could no longer hold back his excitement. He opened his menu and noticed that he had an extra tab called Inventory. A huge grid of empty boxes appeared right in front of him. It was like the shop tab but completely empty. Moby stored the level 100 book along with a few extra uniforms. He also stored all of the money that he had left. He didn't have much money at all from buying the rope. The rope ended up falling into the river after Eric broke loose, so he was unable to reuse it. Just thinking about it made Moby a little angry. Moby then decided to go outside to complete his daily quest. Around the dorms was a huge field that students used to practice their abilities. If Moby used his full power, he would be able to finish his daily quest in no longer than 15 minutes. But, since he was still in an open area, he was not able to do that without having a high chance of being caught. After he finished everything except for the run, he was surprised that he was not in the least bit tired. This must be a side effect of his evolution and level increase. Ads by PubFuture. When he was doing his run, he heard Avelia talk to him in a worried tone. Yesterday night you acted weirdly. Why did you suddenly go soft on me? Yeah, I know what you mean, I wasn't acting like myself. I should not have been so trusting. I guess it was a bad habit from my previous self. I thought I left that part of me behind, but some of it came back yesterday night. Moby said, feeling disgusted at his actions last night. This time I was lucky that nothing happened. But, who knows, next time it happens, I might end up tortured again like that night, Moby said while remembering what happened with Nathan and his gang. Just thinking about it made his blood boil with anger. Avelia, promise me if I ever go soft again to snap me back into reality. I am counting on you, Moby said in a serious tone. Don't worry, you can count on me. A soft demon is no successor of mine, she said proudly. /U003C Daily Quest Complete, /U003E. /U003C plus 3 stat points /U003E. Even after a 10-kilometer run that would leave any man trying to catch his breath, Moby was not tired at all. A demon's constitution must be amazing, he inwardly thought. Moby opened his skills and stats menu to assign his new stat points. Moby then noticed his new power level. /U003C 1990 /U003E. Moby completely forgot to even check his new power level after his new evolution and levels. Moby was thinking long and hard about what to assign his remaining stat points on. He wanted to add it to strength, but if he did, then his endurance would be left lacking and he would be defeated by a single attack, which was really risky. Put it into mind, trust me, Avelia interjected, breaking Moby's train of thought. Why mind? He said in a confused manner. Have faith in me, if you do, I will show you the funniest shit you will ever see, she said, trying to contain her laughter. But first, you will need 30 points in mind, she added. Moby's interest had peaked. Knowing Avelia for only one day, he can tell that she is cynical and with no remorse, while also having a kind and caring side when it comes to him. So, if she says this will be funny, it is most likely accurate. He chose to trust her judgment and do as she suggests. He put his 3 points into mind, making it increase from 15 to 18. Moby still needed 12 more points in mind to reach 30. This means he will have to wait at least 4 more days of doing the daily quest until he gets enough points. This was a bit disappointing. Then a brilliant idea came into his head. If he was able to buy the Novice Demon Katana, that raises his mind stat by 10 points and his strength by 30, he would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. First, he would have enough mind to get to mind level 30. And he would get his strength level closer to his agility level, balancing them once again. But first, he needed a way to gain $4,000 as quickly as possible. I think I might have to go on a huge stealing spree, he inwardly chuckled. Episode 15. Skill Creation. /U003C 7am /U003E. He still needed to take his morning shower and get ready for school, so he headed back to his dorm. When he re-entered his dorm, he noticed that his roommates were still fast asleep in awkward positions. He couldn't help but chuckle a bit at how ridiculous they looked. He did not even have to get clothes ready for the shower, as he already had everything in his inventory. As he casually entered the bathroom, he went over to the sink to wash his face from the little sweat he built up doing the daily quest. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he could not help but inwardly scream. What? Who the fuck is that? This was the first time he ever saw his face ever since his evolution. The last time he was in the bathroom was when he was washing his clothes. At that time, the bathroom mirror was all foggy from Alex taking the shower, so he was not able to see his reflection. Moby's previously pale skin has turned a shade darker, giving him the look of a natural tan. His previous jet black hair now has a few red strands. His green eyes had a subtle glow that made them look almost unnatural. His facial features were also much more defined. If he was considered somewhat handsome from before, he would be considered a top-class model now. Avelia, what is the meaning of this? He screamed in anger. Oh, come on, don't be like that, she said while chuckling. I'm just going to say, the expression, handsome as a devil, very much has a lot of truth in it. I thought you might like the change. You'll be a chick magnet now, she added while laughing even harder. You and I both know that this is a bad thing. First, I don't give a rat's ass about attracting those filthy whores who treated me like no more than a pile of dog shit on the street. Actually, I take that back. At least a pile of dog shit would be left alone and ignored, not constantly mocked and bullied every day. Second, I don't want to attract too much attention to myself. My plan was to keep a low profile while making plans from the shadows. But, this change will ruin it. Moby inwardly cursed his constant bad luck. Moby thought of wearing a mask to hide his face but completely discarded the idea. First, masks are not allowed in the school without special permission. And second, a mask would attract even more attention than not wearing one. Moby just had to suck it up and go to school like normal. He decided that he will try to blend in with the crowd to avoid being noticed. Ads by Pub Future. After taking a shower, the time was already 7:15. He still has 45 minutes until school starts. His roommates are still fast asleep like babies. Is there any way I can get stronger right now? I don't like sitting here with my hands up my ass doing nothing of value, Moby asked Avelia in a bored but somehow serious tone. I'll give you a hint, skill books are not the only way that you can gain skills. You can develop your own, Avelia answered with the mental equivalent of a wink. Also, the only way of leveling up your skills is by repeatedly using them, and others can only level up when you reach a certain level or when you evolve, she added. I can create my own skills and level them up. Why did you not tell that sooner? Moby asked in a surprised tone. Well, you never asked, and this is the only opportunity one found to tell you because you have always been busy ever since you got the system. Maybe you should try asking me more questions in the future, Avelia replied, winking once again. True, I will take a mental note to ask you more questions in the future. I'm still not quite used to having a voice in my head, Moby said with a chuckle. It's okay, you'll get used to it eventually. Avelia replied with the mental equivalent of a smile. If Moby wanted to be able to consistently practice his skills, he needed a way to swiftly replenish his demon energy. Currently, he would need to wait for a little over 2 hours to completely replenish his demon energy. This would be way too long and impractical if he wants to train without 2-hour breaks to wait for his demon energy to recharge. He searched his memory long and hard for such a technique. Then he remembered in a moment of brilliance. He remembered one of his parents' techniques that had been buried deep in his memory. It was the memory of his dad closing his eyes and going into a meditative state. He remembered feeling a huge concentration of energy building around his dad while he was performing the technique. Moby stood up from his chair and tried to do the same thing as his father in the memory. He closed his eyes trying to feel the flow of energy in the air. Then, he noticed a faint flow of energy in the air around him. After that, he visualized the energy entering his body. \U003C new skill created. \U003E. Skill name, NA. By gathering the energy in the air and directing it in his body, the user can replenish his demon energy back to full. The user must be standing completely still and requires complete focus. The process cannot be interrupted or else the skill will be cancelled. Ads by PubFuture. Time to activate, 5 minutes. \U003C. What would you like to name your new skill? \U003E. Moby was really satisfied with his newly created skill. With this, Moby can train his other skills without the worry of running out of energy. Avelia was impressed by his new skill, giving him a mental nod of acknowledgement. Moby was now thinking of a proper name for the skill. After rejecting many of his useless and cringe name ideas, he finally settled for one. Nature's Stimulation. \U003C name choice acknowledged. \U003E. \U003C Nature's Stimulation. \U003E. As Moby was about to start training his skills, he heard a loud ringing sound. He looked over and saw that the sound was coming from an alarm clock. The time was already 7:40, which is 20 minutes before school starts. The alarm woke up both Ray and Alex. Moby left the room as soon as he noticed them wake up. Luckily, Moby managed to slip out of the room before they noticed him. He was in no mood for talking right now. And from the little he knows about them, he assumes that they would want him to walk together with them to school, which would attract too much attention. Especially since it would be two high levels together with a low level, which would be seen as sketchy at best. After 5 minutes of walking, Moby finally reached the entrance of the school. The school was crowded from head to toe with students. The hallways were as lively as ever. He tried to stick with the crowd on his way to class. But, the plan did not work out as well as he thought it would. He saw a bunch of girls looking at him with eyes of admiration, which quickly turned into disgust. However, this time, some of the girls seemed to feel devastated knowing that they could never be together instead of disgusted. A lot of boys were looking back at him with eyes of spite and jealousy. So much for keeping a low profile. It seems like I've already made a lot of enemies by merely existing, he inwardly cursed. Out of the crowd, a girl walked out and stood in front of Moby. She had an elegant and proud walk that screamed, "Out of the way, peasants, I am rich and important." She had dark blue hair that looks well maintained that goes down to her waist and sky blue eyes that looked almost hypnotizing. Her figure was slim, thick with curves in all the right places. Even with little makeup, her face was considered really cute and attractive. She wore a standard Year 1 student uniform with a few modifications that were made to reveal more skin. All the boys were literally drooling in her direction. They did not even try to hide it. Moby seemed to be immune to her feminine charms. When he saw her approach him, he started to inwardly curse at why the world hates him. He tried not to show it on his face and tried to play it cool and hope it blows over. "Good morning, miss. Do you want something?" he said with the best fake smile he could muster. Then, she started to chuckle out of nowhere. Moby got worried thinking he said something rude or stupid. "I like you, why don't you be my pet?" she said with a dark cynical smile. Episode 16. You're what? Moby quickly looked over at her watch to check her power level to see who he is dealing with. \U003C3420 \U003E. Moby inwardly cursed. She was way too powerful for him to take care of at his current power level. His only chance is if he maybe caught her off guard as he did with Eric. Moby's current top priority right now was to stay on her good side until he finds an opportunity to take her out. So, he needs to try to stay as respectful as possible. Excuse me miss, I had a hard time understanding what you meant, Moby said, trying his best to sound respectful. She started to giggle even more, which made Moby even more nervous. I mean that you are really attractive and I want you to be my servant. She looked at him while winking. All the boys that were previously looking at him with eyes of envy now look at him like they were ready to murder him. Moby forced down a gulp of saliva and responded with the only possible answer. It would be an honor to be the servant of such a beautiful maiden such as yourself, Moby said with a deep now, trying to hide the disgusted look on his face. He had to accept her request, even if he really didn't want to. There is no doubt in his mind that he would be dead if he were to decline. Moby just had to endure it for now. The girl's face became flushed red out of nowhere. My, you sure do have a way with words, she said while giggling. What is your name, handsome? My name is Jaden Griffith, she said in a soft gentle tone. Ads by Pub Future. My name is Moby Kane, he replied with a smile. After noticing all the annoying glares of the men surrounding them, Jaden's expression took a complete 180. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. All you losers listen up. If any one of you bitches ever lays a hand on my pet, I will have them wish they were never born. Spread this message to anyone you see. No one touches my belongings without my consent. She screamed in a stern, angry tone like a child throwing a temper tantrum. Moby inwardly cringed at her referring to him as pet and as her belongings. But he had to endure that self-deprivation for now. He knows that the only reason she was doing this was because of Moby's low power level combined with his good looks. This makes her think that she can tame him because he is not strong enough to refuse. After considering all the benefits of being her servant, he could not help but feel like this is a win-win situation. As long as she does not make him do anything sexual, he will try and endure it biding his time. After she finished her crazy speech, she instantly regained her previous demeanor and looked back at Moby with an even crazier look. Meet me at the front gate after school, I have things I plan to do with you, she said with a sadistic smile that turned into a giggle. Then she walked away as elegantly as she came. If she dares do anything weird to me, I will make her regret the day she was born, Moby inwardly thought. After the stress from his encounter faded away, Moby checked the time on his watch to see how much until class starts. /U003C 7:50 AM /U003E. He still had 10 minutes to get to the class, which means that there is no need to rush. When Moby walked towards the crowd surrounding him, each person without exception immediately made space for him to go by. It was a feeling he had never experienced before in his life. He could not help but laugh out loud at his newfound authority, making a few boys in the crowd's face turn red out of anger. Moby proudly walked the halls with no care in the world. Although many people looked at him with eyes of spite and anger, no one dared to approach him. It seems like the message has already spread fast. This Jaden chick's family must be really important, he inwardly chuckled. On his way to class, he noticed that many of the low levels were being maliciously bullied by the higher levels while the teachers just stood there with no care in the world. Moby could not care less about upholding justice and helping the weak. In his mind, that was just a fool's errand. In his head, as long as they don't mess with him, he won't mess with them. The world is a cruel place where the only person that you can trust is yourself. He learned never to waste his breath to help people, just like people never wasted their breath to help him. He had to learn that hard and painful way. Moby reached his class at 7:58 AM, 2 minutes before the bell. When he saw the empty seat next to his, he could not help but inwardly chuckle. Ads by Pub Future. He quickly took his seat and waited for the class to start. Thanks to his improved hearing, he was able to pick up on the other students' conversations even if they were whispering. Half of them were talking about the incident this morning with him and Jaden, and the other half was talking about the death of Eric. Suddenly Professor Leo entered the room, banging his hand on the table, making the entire class go completely silent. "Good morning, class. I have terrible news to inform you. Yesterday at night, a fellow classmate of yours was murdered in cold blood. The school is currently doing an investigation on the matter. So far we have no suspects or witnesses. If you saw something, I urgently encourage you to go to the general's office," Leo said in a serious tone. The entire class stayed silent. No one even moved an inch. "Well, anyway, now that the official stuff is out the way, I will start with today's lesson. Today, I will be explaining to you the importance of magical equipment. Magical equipment is made out of body parts of magical beasts such as scales and teeth that can be found on different planets and from rare ores and materials as well. They are an imperative part of any soldier's arsenal. When humans were finally able to travel past the Milky Way galaxy, we discovered that in other galaxies there are really powerful beast-like creatures that provide materials for weapons and armor. These creatures are now known as magical beasts." Professor Leo continued to ramble on about different types of magical beasts and their uses alongside all their rarities that also go from F to X. Moby did not really care for the lesson. Instead, he used this time to level up his skills. The only skill he can level up without being noticed was his Eyes of Sin. By activating it while keeping his eyes closed, he was able to successfully train it while not being noticed under the facade of sleeping in class. He spent the entire class alternating between using nature stimulation to replenish his energy and Eyes of Sin to train it. Suddenly the bell rang, signaling that lunchtime started. Moby chose to sit in a spot all alone in the low-level section of the cafeteria. No one dared approach him because of his status as Jaden's pet, so he had a table all for himself. Moby was just chilling and eating his food with no care in the world. Then, he suddenly felt the presence of two people sit right next to him. Moby almost jumped out of his seat in surprise, as he never thought anyone actually had the balls to approach him after all the threats Jaden gave. Then he noticed that it was just his roommates, Alex and Ray. "Hey Moby, how's it going?" Alex asked with a smile. Usually, he would be completely against them sitting next to him because they are high levels while he is a low level, which would attract trouble and unwanted attention. But now, he did not have such worries, as he is confident that no trouble would come his way. Moby noticed a few angry glares staring at him and his roommates, but he paid them no mind. The three just talked about trivial things like how much they like school and cool places to visit in the city. It was mostly Alex and Ray talking while Moby said a few words pretending that he cared. Suddenly the mood became all gloomy and serious. "Moby, I heard that you became the pet of that bitch Jaden," Alex said with a sigh. "Why? Do you know her?" Moby replied in surprise. "Yes, of course I do," Alex said in an unnaturally serious tone.